Hello there and welcome to the new Tableau tutorial for visualizing data. And you must be wondering what is going over here. There is a lot of traffic situation over here on the screen, and that basically the topic for the today. So what we have today is the traffic data, which is a very small data, and I have picked up this data just to show you some of the regular visualization and innovative visualization that you can see. So we will start with understanding what is this data, some of its component, which is very straightforward, and then first we will start with regular visualizations, then we will move on to some innovation visualization, just so that we have a good representation of the data for small data set like this, which I will going to show you in a second. Okay, so here is the data set, and as you can see, it just has the 10 rows and 4 columns. That's it. And sometimes we have a situation like this where we have this small data set like this one, and we really wonder how do we going to visualize this, because some of the things which comes in the mind is like the bar chart. That is something which is related to the comparison of the categories. Well, yeah, that works fine for situation of this where you want to compare in which city or in which country you are spending your time a lot in the traffic. And as you can see, it just has the 1 year information. That means you cannot use line chart or anything over here. So how we can visualize this, different ways based on the characteristics of this data, and put something into an innovation visualization. I will show you which will probably help you when you are dealing with this type of data. Alright, so let's move on to the Tableau. So here we are within the Tableau, and what I'm going to do is clicking on the Microsoft Excel, and what do I have is the hours spent in the congestion into the European cities. Now this can be any other city. If we want to scale this up, something like we can have if from any data source we can have the entire world's data, or maybe each city data in a particular country, because right now what you see, it has just one country, United Kingdom, then France, Switzerland, Germany. So a very small list of company, and from that itself it has just picked some cities information. So if we want to scale this up, we can scale like anything. On top of that, if we would have had this year information like over the past 10 years, we could have done so much more with this, but no worries. Let's start with this and see how we can go. So very first thing which comes into the mind when we do the comparison of categories is basically looking at the hours spent in the congestion, and the recommendation is, because we have the geographic data, the recommendation is creating the chart which is a map chart. So once we click on the map chart, it gives us the information about the chart. And one thing I would suggest to you is looking at the data, because if I go back over here, this is hours spent in Germany, and over here the aggregation is sum. Now for this sort of visualization, sum is not the right aggregation. Why? Because if you see over here, you have for United Kingdom 1 row, but for Germany you have 3 rows which has equal values, 44, 44, 44. So if we have to do a comparison between the United Kingdom and Germany, it has to be an average. Similarly, if you see, Germany is present over here, so it should be average and it should not be sum. So make sure whenever you are producing the visualization, you are choosing the right. So the way you will going to do that is from here, this drop down, you will come to the measure and you will change this to average. And as soon as we change it to the average, you will clearly see that United Kingdom and France is basically leading the way, and we can make it more apparent by increasing the size a little bit. So over here, clearly United Kingdom has average hour 74, followed by France, then in Finland and in Norway. These are the different countries in which you have the situation of traffic congestion. So that's one type of chart that we can produce. Another type of chart is, for example, for each city, we can compare using the categories. And over here, if you see, I will just put it in the entire view, and now we will just sort it for a better understanding. So over here again, you have London, but it is the sum of hours. So what I'll do is so now it doesn't really matter if I change it to sum or average. Why? Well, think about it by pausing this video for a moment and then come back. The reason for this is because the lowest level of granularity is city. So if we go over here, this is the lowest level of granularity. That means this has the unique values which is present for each value that is in the column hours spent. And that is why, irrespective of whether we choose sum, whether we choose average, nothing will going to change. So that's one thing that we can do. We can also color code this information by putting the hours spent on the color, where clearly you will see that value which is having higher is being colored. But that doesn't make a lot of change or a lot of problem at situation like want to highlight. But scenarios like those where you want to clearly highlight the first two, or maybe the London in that case, then it becomes useful. So in that case, what you can do is go into the color, click on the edit color, make it a stepped color, and reduce these steps in that case. Now rest of the categories is basically the light blue, and this is a dark blue. If you may want to increase, just put the highest value over there. Like for example, you want to highlight only the London in this case. You can actually play around with this advanced, and within the advanced you have these options like starting and ending. So let's say we want to start. So if I just check, probably it is around 68 or 69. So maybe we can say 70 over here, and we choose apply and click OK. So in this case, now only London is being highlighted, if that is what we want from this visualization. So that's another way by which you may have seen various people have is basically highlighting the most deviated or most used, or the dimension which is where in this case most hours spent. So that's another thing. Third way of doing the visualization by picking the city, again hours spent in congestion, and you have the visualization which is you have these tree map. Another way of doing the category wise comparison. But over here, if you basically observe, it does not tell you a lot of information. I mean, it obviously mentioned that London is the highest one, Stuttgart is the lowest one, but does not reveal a lot of significant insight, as each square in these three cases looks like same. In these three cases it looks like same, so not much of a visually appealing. So what we can do when we have the small data set like this to make it more and more visually appealing, well, in that case I will show you one last visualization which I think is slightly innovative and useful when we are doing a comparison like this, or when we are trying to compare the categories, just to basically understand how this basically is working. So for that, what I'll do is I will put the countries, let's say, in columns, and put the city over here. All right, now once we have this, what we can do is, just so that it clearly presented here, I just extended it, the width. Now what we have over here is basically different types of charts. So what I'll do is pick the Gantt chart. Now Gantt chart, why? Because I'll show you in a minute. And for that, next thing I will do is, for Gantt I will have to choose a length, and as you could see from the previous coloring category, it was ranging between 44 to somewhere close to 80. So maybe what I'll do is I will put the name as length and call it average 40. You can have it sum 40, doesn't really matter. I'm just choosing it average 40 over here, and I'll put the average over here on the length. So now you see it has fully occupied wherever the value has been appearing, or the ABC was there earlier, and I will make it thin size over here. All right, so what do I have over here is basically a scale on which I can plot the value of each hour spent in congestion for the better comparison, and it will look really amazing. So just wait with me for this visualization. So for this, what I'll do is I have this aggregated length, and I will put here as the sum of hours spent. So once we have this, what I'll do is I will first remove sum of hours spent from the aggregated length, and from Gantt I will change this to a circle. And what I'll do is I will increase the size of the circle. So now what do we have is basically this line and the circle, and then I will put it dual axis over here. So once I choose the dual axis, you will see that slightly a lot of interesting thing is happening. So one thing is your circle is on top of the line, and clearly you can identify over here in this case the Munich is the one in the country Germany which is having the highest one. So from the earlier visualization it was not very clear, right? But in this visualization it is pretty much apparent, and in case of Switzerland it's pretty much same. And clearly in case of United Kingdom we are leading the way with the traffic congestion time spent. The next thing I will do is right click over here and click on synchronize axis, and I will right click again and uncheck the show header. And if you see, the bar is basically starting from 40 because I have chosen 40 over there. The reason for that is so that any observation which is close to 40 should present, along with it is going all the way up till 80 by default based on the range that Gantt has selected, and that's why we are able to see that in case of 74 it is at the extreme right. So the next thing what I'll do is to make it a little bit more interactive is by going into the edit axis, and I will uncheck the include 0. So this will basically going to help me to start the visualization from 40 and go all the way up till 80, and then produce these beautiful visualization. Now this length is being repetitive, so what I'll do is right click and click on uncheck show header. Also we can make it like the entire full view, and we can make this Gantt little bit thin if this is giving us a little bit of problem in terms of seeing it from the visualization perspective. Other thing which I will do it to make it more useful or more clean is right clicking on the sheet and click on format. From these lines I will go into the columns and remove the grid line. So now these lines are also removed, right? The next thing I may do is to make it more meaningful is coming over here and increase the size a little bit. So if you see the size I am increasing is this much is I guess good, because it shows that some length is over there and I can even see it is a big circle. Now what I can do is from the hours spent I can put it on the label. So now the label is present over here, and from here by going into the label, from the alignment I can choose center. So now it is inside the circle, and then I will from the font I will choose the Tableau bold, which I like because it clearly conveys the information which we are trying to show, and I will put it the white color, and that way it clearly shows, if I go into the presentation mode, the various different categories across the countries and their respective cities, do the comparison for the country, as well as for each city you can basically see how well they are, how much time they are spending in their respective country or in their respective city in the traffic congestion. So clearly France with the 69 and United Kingdom is leading the way, and that's why they are on the far right, and for rest of the category they are on the left side. So that is mainly I wanted to show you that the visualization that you can create with the help of a little bit of innovation and with the Tableau that it can do and produce the information from you. Now the other thing which you may want to do is if you don't want country, but if you just want to compare the cities, if your scenario is like this, you can always remove this, and what it gives you sort of entire lines, and for each city you can do a comparison on a single scale. So up to us how much innovation or how much visualization capabilities we may want to check for this, but this I think reveals a lot of amazing information which looks stunningly good. when you will present it in your report or dashboard. But as I said, this is a very simple data. You can make it complex, and we can have something like if there are multiple cities, multiple countries, then we can have a filter over here which going to show us the information as we want to see that. But that's mainly I wanted to show you about how you can work with a simple data set like this and produce a visualization which helps you understand your data better. So now I'll meet you some other visualization topic and with some other mini project just to understand how we can visualize it better, the given data.